Can you imagine Max Verstappen breaking records at the Nürburgring using a fake identity? He did it. And it wasn't just a crazy idea. It was all planned, approved by Red Bull, and it hit a strategic objective. What would you do if you were his team? Would you let him race outside of F1? Leave it in the comments. Because today I'm going to tell you how one lap in GT3 could change much more than just track time. And if you don't want to miss anything that's happening, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In this video, I explain how Max Verstappen, using the pseudonym Franz Hermann, broke a record at the 2025 Nordschleife and what that means for his future in F1 and for Red Bull. Max Verstappen is known for his extreme focus, his intensity on every lap, and his meticulous preparations down to the smallest detail before each race. What not everyone expected was that, in the middle of the 2025 F1 season, he would show up for an endurance test on the legendary Nordschleife under a false name. To avoid crowds of fans early in the day and protect team logistics, the event organizer suggested he sign up under an alias. Verstappen didn't hesitate. He chose the name Franz Hermann, an identity that, according to him, sounded very German and seemed fun. Behind the informal tone, there was a much more serious strategy. The setting was the official Nürburgring endurance test. It was a formal commitment, authorized by Red Bull, which knew from the outset that its star driver would be behind the wheel of a Ferrari 296 GT3, prepared by the Emil Frey racing team. The goal wasn't to impress anyone or make headlines. The real reason, to familiarize himself with the world's most demanding circuit. But although he disguised himself as Franz Hermann, as soon as Verstappen hit the track, the disguise began to unravel. His driving style, his cornering, his precision when braking, they soon gave him away. Despite everything, he at least managed to get some privacy in the first few sessions, where he took the opportunity to adapt without media pressure. And here's the most interesting part. This wasn't a simple test drive. It was a calculated decision. Verstappen sought to understand the Nordschleife from the inside out, as part of a personal plan that goes beyond his F1 contract. Being there was no coincidence, and each lap concealed a clear intention. Max Verstappen, in his role as Franz Hermann, didn't just complete a few laps of the Nordschleife. During the test day, Verstappen made 3 outings on the track. In each of them, the conditions varied. First, he went out with a full tank in VLN configuration and set a surprising time: 7 minutes, 56 seconds. For anyone, that lap would be enough to make a mark. But not for him. On his second run, also with a full tank, he managed to lower his time to 7:54. There was no official timing assistance, as it was a private test day, but multiple reliable sources within the paddock confirmed the accuracy of the times. They weren't guesswork, they were verified records. The third run was the definitive one. After a technical stop, he went out again with a completely new set of tires and a more aggressive approach. On that run, Verstappen achieved the unthinkable, a lap of 7:48, a time that, although not officially approved, surpassed the GT3 record on that circuit configuration. That record was previously held by Christian Krones, with a time of 7 minutes and 49.578 seconds. Max, against all odds, lowered that record. One of the first to raise doubts was Mauro Engel, who mentioned that the Emil Frey racing Ferrari could have been tuned under the balance of performance (BOP) parameters used in the DTM. These settings, if applied, could significantly influence the car's performance. But Verstappen responded immediately. According to him, everything was done under the standard Nürburgring Endurance Series regulations, and any suggestion of cheating was, in his words, completely false. This detail is key, because what's at stake isn't just a lap time. It's the credibility of a driver who, despite being an F1 world champion, decides to expose himself to a new environment with no guarantees and with the risk that any mistake could cast doubt on his name. After this record, the story was no longer just that Verstappen entered the Nordschleife under another name. Now the question was different. Why did he do it with such commitment? And even more so, what does Red Bull gain by allowing this kind of adventure? When a Formula One driver gets involved in activities outside the official calendar, reactions within the team are usually mixed. And if that driver's name is Max Verstappen, the implications are even greater. Red Bull Racing knows this all too well. In this case, however, there is an important nuance. The test at the Nürburgring was not a secret or unauthorized action. Red Bull was fully informed from the beginning. Verstappen's participation in the test with Emil Frey Racing had been communicated and accepted in advance. The team's official position has been cautious. There were no definitive statements or controversial declarations. But that doesn't mean they are completely calm. For a team like Red Bull, which focuses on technical dominance and strategic stability, seeing its main figure competing with a Ferrari GT3 on a circuit as treacherous as the Nordschleife is not exactly the best scenario. Simply racing there, even with safety measures, entails real physical risks. Red Bull has shown unusual openness. The trust they have in Verstappen is absolute, to the point of allowing him to make moves that other teams would never tolerate. This reflects not only Max's importance within the team, but also the degree of freedom he has gained thanks to his results. Behind the scenes, internal pressure exists. Red Bull has invested resources, technology, and years of development to create the ideal environment for Verstappen to win. And when their driver begins to explore other worlds, even with the goal of growing, the natural concern arises: is he completely focused on F1? Max himself has come out to clarify things. He has said that his loyalty to Red Bull is not in doubt and that this type of testing does not interfere with his performance in the Premier class. He has even stated that his bond with the team is stronger than ever. The first consequence, and perhaps the most obvious, has to do with physical risk. The Nordschleife is not just any circuit. It's a long, technical layout, full of variables, with blind corners and areas where the margin for error is practically non-existent. Going off track in that environment can result in a serious accident. And if that accident happens to Red Bull's #1 driver, the impact on the team would be immediate and profound. Red Bull has built its current dominance around Verstappen's talent. His driving, consistency, and adaptability have been fundamental to the team's success in recent seasons. Therefore, any external activity that poses a threat to his physical integrity puts everyone else on alert. Although there were no incidents in this case, the simple fact of taking that risk generates discomfort. But the consequences don't end there. There is also a strategic dimension. The time Verstappen spends developing a GT3 car, although personally enriching, could be interpreted as a distraction from the main focus, Formula One. In a season as tight as the 2025 season, where the differences between teams are minimal and every detail counts, stepping away from the F1 environment for even a few days could have a competitive cost. All of this leads us to one conclusion: what Verstappen did at the Nürburgring wasn't free. It was a high-risk move, with clear benefits but also potential costs. Benefits, such as additional experience, technical visibility, and personal development. Costs such as distraction, internal tension, and physical vulnerability. At this point, one of the most relevant questions is not what happened at the Nürburgring, but what lies ahead. What does Verstappen intend to do with all of this? And how will the pieces move within Red Bull in the coming months? In his recent statements, Verstappen has been firm. He asserts that he has no intention of leaving Red Bull and that rumors about a move to Mercedes must stop. His message seeks to convey calm. But the truth is that, even with that verbal commitment, speculation remains. And every step he takes outside of F1, such as his participation at the Nürburgring, fuels that narrative. From the team's perspective, the priority is to retain him. Red Bull has already begun preparing its technical program for 2026, the year in which the new regulations will come into effect. In that scenario, having Verstappen as a cornerstone of the project is not just an advantage, it's a strategic necessity. Without him, the transition to the new era would be much more uncertain. That's why Milton Keynes is accelerating every possible process. Internal negotiations are underway to strengthen his commitment beyond what is on paper. It's not just about money, but about building an environment where Verstappen feels he continues to grow, continues to win, and doesn't need to look elsewhere. But Max is already looking further ahead. His participation as Franz Hermann wasn't just a whim or a simple personal challenge. It was a step closer to a goal he's mentioned in several interviews: competing in the 24 hours of Nürburgring. And to do that, he needs to gain real-world track experience. He's already begun the process of obtaining official DMSB permission, confirming that his intention is serious and that the project is underway. In the coming months, a season of strategic moves is expected. Red Bull will fine-tune its car with the latest major upgrade packages before the regulation change. At the same time, Verstappen will continue to gain experience in different disciplines. Verstappen isn't just building his present. He's designing the next phase of his career with precision, ambition, and complete freedom. And when a driver like him operates with that mindset, the entire F1 ecosystem adjusts to react. Max Verstappen, under the name Franz Hermann, not only broke an unofficial record on the Nordschleife, but also revealed a part of his personal strategy that few had noticed. He's forging his path beyond Formula One without yet relinquishing his throne. And he's doing so methodically, confidently, and fully aware of the impact this generates. Everything that happened at the Nürburgring, from his camouflaged presence to the spectacular 748 he clocked in the GT3, confirms something that goes beyond the numbers. Verstappen isn't satisfied. He doesn't stop. His mind is no longer focused solely on what happens on Sundays at the Grand Prix. He's exploring, accumulating experience, testing his own possibilities in scenarios that a few years ago wouldn't even have been on the radar for a champion in his category. And that makes him an unpredictable player, both on and off the track. And although today he remains firmly linked to Red Bull, the horizon reveals a figure who no longer plays by the same rules as the rest. That autonomy, that ambition for the unknown, is what makes him so different. Let me know your opinion in the comments. Do you think Verstappen should focus solely on Formula One, or is he within his rights to seek new challenges without compromising his level? I want to know what you think. Be sure to subscribe to the channel.